Welcome to the Freeg and Don D podcast, life, family, and business. Yeah. Listen, today I have the pleasure of having Pastor ADERINA Lee in studio. And so we're going to be talking about leadership and purposeful leadership. And I'm just so excited to have her in here today. So Pastor, tell everybody about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I am Pastor ADERINA Lee from a little small place called Beach Island, South Carolina, just up the road. Only girl of 5 children and the baby. So I grew up right around here. I come from Beach Island, grew up in North Augusta, and I'm a cosmetologist by trade and a preacher by calling.
Ooh, I like that. Cosmetologist by trade, preacher by calling.
Yes.
Oh,
And both have been assigned by God. Even my career has been chosen by God. I started doing hair when I was in 6th grade, because my hair was so bad. But God began to teach me everything. And so I started doing my hair and it started changing and, so it kind of blossomed from there.
Wow. So, well, let's go back to, your childhood. So, because you look so polished.
I hear that. Thank you, Lord.
So I know you be like, I received that.
Yeah.
Right. But let's talk about what made Pastor ADERINA Lee, your household growing up, mom, dad, what did all that look like?
Okay. Well, my father, he passed when I was 2 years old. But from all the stories I hear and everything that my family talks about, I get a lot of my attributes from him. He's a very hard worker, and he was the type of man that would pick up the other kids in the neighborhood and teach them how to make a little money for themselves. Teach them how to pick up the cans and the bottles and take them down and let them trade them in for $0.25 and $1 and all of that kind of stuff. So I get a lot of my attributes from my father. My mother was an excellent mother, but we are opposites. We are very opposite. So, so we're very different, but she was a great mother. She was a hard worker.
But hold up, so I got to cut you off there because I just want to ask you this, because when you said that, I saw something in you, like me and my mom are very different.
Woo!
What does that look like? Unpack that.
It looks like hot water over some fried fish. Okay,
I don't even know what that looks like. It doesn't sound good though.
Fry some fish and get wet. Okay, so we're very opposites. We see everything differently. So sometimes when you see things differently, not that either person is wrong, but it will cause a lot of clashing.
Friction,
yeah, a lot of friction. That's a great word. So. Yeah, so if she want to go left, I want to go right. If she want it black, I probably want it blue. We just like everything so different. And so that can cause a lot of conflict. You have to make a decision that we're going to get along and we're going to communicate in ways that edify one another and strengthen one another instead of making this a cause for war. Because it can be.
Ooh, I love that. You said make a decision that we're going to get along.
Got to make a decision that this is how we treat each other, So.
Listen, man, I've had to do that. So I understand.
Yeah.
I had to make a decision that I'm going to get along with this person in my life that I love. We don't see things the same. Yeah. But I had to be the one to make the decision.
Right.
That, we're not in alignment, and that's okay. But you're still my, my parent.
Absolutely.
So let me just, make a decision that we're gonna, move forward in a productive way.
Yeah. Let's be productive.
I'm just saying.
And it's not always easy. When I was in kindergarten, my mother used to call me Miss High and Mighty. So I've always kind of been like whatever, and it used to irritate me so bad. And it wasn't until I was grown, that we were in the store and she said, but ain't nothing wrong with that. And I don't know what changed or shifted it, but in that moment, it brought peace to her saying that to me. Every other time she had said that to me, it kind of infuriated me. Like, I'm always too much for you or the situation. But I probably was in my 30s and she said, but ain't nothing wrong with that. And so we really have to learn how our words are containers of power. Like what we say, how we respond, how you choose to nurture someone's soul that may be different from yours, but how you can respond to that person can minister to their soul in a moment. And sometimes we have to choose to love those that God has assigned us to care for in the way that he's assigned us to care for them over being right and having our needs met all the time.
Lord have mercy. You over here cooking because Mama would say Miss High and Mighty.
Miss High and Mighty.
And even if she wouldn't admit it back then, that was negative.
Absolutely.
And you received it as negative.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I'm around someone in my family, they'll say, oh, he bougie. You don't mean
it's
that in a
right,
positive way.
Right, but it's okay.
You mean that, you're saying this, and I'm not even doing anything. I'm just existing.
Being you.
but yeah, so I when you said that, I was like, wow. And I'll tell you something else that you said without really saying it, but we continue to grow and evolve, and we understand that it's more important to get it right than to be right.
Right.
And when you get to that point in life, everything starts to mellow out for you. Like, I'm not trying to be right anymore. I just want to get this right.
Right.
And we got to get this relationship right. Choosing peace. Oh, I love that. Woo. Anyway, so you had five. So you have 5 siblings.
Yes.
And you was the only girl.
Only girl.
So what was that like?
You would think I would be spoiled, but really, I'm like the 5th boy. So my legs will testify. I mean, I'm scarred up everywhere from climbing trees and jumping off houses and the whole 9 yards. So you would think I was the 5th boy because they had no mercy on me. So none at all. So, and I was kind of like, even though I was a baby, I was more like the oldest. I'm kind of still like the oldest.
But listen, you actually are helping me out right now because, in my family, it's 5 boys, 1 girl.
Okay.
And they probably look at my sister and they think, oh, she's probably spoiled. She's really one of the boys. She's pretty much one of the guys at this point.
Right. Okay.
So I received that, man. I never heard that perspective before though. That I'm basically one of the boys. Right. Sometimes she be wanting to hang with us. I'm like, you a girl. Oh. But I don't think she sees it like that though.
Right.
Just saying.
She doesn't. Okay.
So, so growing up with 5 brothers, so that's probably, is that where you get some of your, because you talked about your dad too, so I'm assuming that's where you get maybe some of your entrepreneurship from, and hustling and just wanting to make a way.
Yes.
And then the brothers, I'm assuming they added some level of toughness. I'm guessing, right?
Absolutely. 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 They did.
So let me ask you then. So you talk about your dad and how you're more like him. So what was, I know, so he was more, I'm assuming like you said, like hustler. He was always trying to find a way. So mom, did mom work outside the house or?
When she was married to my father, before he passed, he didn't want her to work.
Okay.
So she was a stay-at-home mom at that time. Okay. But of course, once my father passed, which was when I was 2, she went out and she began working again. So
yeah. I know
she's always been a hard worker.
And you talked about also how mom, she never remarried.
No.
She must have really been in love with that man.
I don't know. I don't.
You just know she never got remarried.
I know she never got remarried. So, but my father was a good man from all that I've heard. But, there's a lot of stories that can go on behind the scenes. A lot of things. People lived a lot different,
right.
in my mom's day. And so a lot of things she didn't find out about my father till after he died.
Wow.
So, I think that kind of shaped her perspective as far as wanting to remarry again. Wow.
So it sounds like you and mom have always kind of had this, this to some degree strained relationship to some degree. Clickety clackety. Mm-hmm. But of course, you being who you are, continuously drawing close to God, giving mom grace. This is one thing that, listen, even me as a parent, I've learned to give my parents grace because kids don't always understand that when a parent is a parent, it's their first time being a parent.
Absolutely.
They're trying to figure it out. It's like on-the-job training.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we'll pick up things from our parents and bring it into our parenting and realize that's not right. You know what I'm saying? Like what I'm bringing into parenting that I pull from my parents and they pull from their parents, this is not the right way to handle things.
Right.
But sometimes we don't know that until we go through the experience. And so shout out to you for giving your mom grace.
Yes. And parents aren't perfect. I say that all the time. Parents aren't perfect. And if I'm honest, there have been times in my mom and I's relationship where looking at it in the natural, we may have never recovered. But when you involve God in a situation, God will always be involved. If you allow him in your situation, then God will get involved. So God began to teach us how to rebuild and strengthen ourselves. And and there will be times and seasons, you know, they probably going to blacklist me and not want to listen to me anymore, but it's okay because I'm going to tell you the truth. There'll be times and seasons where I would have to take a break from my mother, you know, and so, but if she got down bad enough and she needed me, guess what? I was going to come running.
Every time.
And if we got in a fight today and I needed something, she was going to be right there, you know? So, you know, sometimes life is about choices. You know, life is about choices. And well, I think we were talking about this earlier. Sometimes you choose to love, you choose to build, you choose to strengthen. So it's not always the easiest things to do. Sometimes people don't deserve the grace that we give them. But do we deserve God?
Oh, come on
know?
now.
So,
you over here preaching. Stop.
Okay.
Oh, Lord. But no, I think you're 100% right. And I do think that there are moments in these relationships with people that we have to deal with, that we have to take a little bit of a breather, right? We just have to. And it's not just for us, it's also for them.
Yeah.
So,
Stay healthy. Stay out that dollar paper. Baby.
Stay out the dollar paper.
Stay out.
But no, you are 100% right, man. We just have to sometimes, and I think we've been conditioned to believe that because it's family,
right?
You know, it's wrong to take a step back.
That ain't God.
And I don't believe that. You know, I think that's very unhealthy.
Right?
It's very unhealthy to be around people that are bad for your spirit and your energy, and they're unwilling to change, and that's fine. I mean, they don't have to change.
Right?
I always say, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. I'm just saying.
I say preach.
I'm just saying. And sometimes that includes your family.
Yes.
And that could be tough for some people. Most of the times, I hate to say that.
Absolutely.
You're going to get me in trouble. So when you think about, you know, your childhood and everything that made you, then you got into pastoring. So what triggered? How did you get into pastoring?
He finna get me working out in here. I'm about to run. Well, when I was 17, I got saved. And I thought I was already saved, as most people do, you know. I thought I was already saved when I got saved because I've been in church my whole life. That's one thing I love my mother for, is she always took me to church. You know, they might not have, you know, crossed every T and dotted every I, but every Sunday we was going to be in that church and we was going to be at every choir rehearsal and everything else. So I always been in church. So I thought I was saved. I'm a good Christian person. What's wrong, you know, with my life? But when I got 17, this lady told me I was going to hell. Y'all.
Wow.
When I tell y'all, I had a fit.
That was scary, right?
No, I showed out so bad, Lord. I wish, honey, because y'all looking at this version of me, honey. That was the unsaved version of me that thought I was saved. And she probably went home very discouraged that night. She probably went home. I done thought about this 1,000 times. Wow. She probably went home and said, I ain't witnessing to nobody else about God. Look how people treat you. You know, when you tell them about the Lord, trying to help them out, tell them they weren't saved. But when I got home that night, I was tossing and turning. God was speaking to me all night. I was like, God, is there a difference between my life and theirs? You know, I thought I was saved and they were saved, but I just thought they was overboard. Like, baby, it don't take all that. God love me too. I ain't got to do all that. Okay. And so I wound up getting saved probably not too long after that. And my life just totally changed, like in a way I never anticipated, you know, because I thought I was a lover of God. I went to church every Sunday, so I couldn't see this drastic change happening in my life, but I gave my heart to the Lord. I was working at Rally's Hamburgers right down the street where Jiffy Lube is now. I got saved at work, gave my heart to the Lord, and my life changed. I'm telling. I remember when I was in alternative school before I got saved, and I remember we had a substitute principal come in, and he said, "Young lady, you're going to be dead by the time you're 21." Y'all, he probably was right, but he didn't know that I was going to give my heart to the Lord. He didn't know that God had a plan for my life. He didn't know that I didn't know that God was going to save me and change me and shift my life. So I got saved at 17, and a few years later, I felt and I knew I was called to preach the gospel. That's how we got it.
Ooh, yeah. And I could tell that you really, I felt that. I felt that. So did you have any pastors or apostles that you looked up to? Or was it, this is just your own journey? Like you didn't have any mentors?
I think, sometimes God be weaving your life together and you don't see it. But the whole time God has put people in place in your life to kind of feed and nurture you along the way, even though you don't notice what's going on. Because I never really thought about this question. And so I guess I always admired, when I say saved for real, like people who were saved for real, I guess I always kind of admired them. Because I remember when I was a little girl, I was still at Hammond Grove Baptist Church, Dr. Bobby G. Hankerson pastoring right down the road. It was this lady, an older lady. She would be in church, Sister Alice Abraham. She would be shouting and praising God in the Baptist church, y'all. So a lot of times they don't want to hear, we a Baptist church. I remember one time I got filled with the Holy Ghost, started speaking in tongues, and people said, "Look, this is a Baptist church. Don't bring on, baby, don't bring on." But she was in there, she was shouting and praising God. I probably was in elementary school. And I remember saying within myself, I don't know what she got, but I want it. I want what she has. So I think God always placed strategically people around me, and I always internally admired people who had a real relationship with God, even though I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't know that it was admiration. I didn't know, but it was because of my destiny in me was calling me to higher and greater. I didn't have language for it.
Wow. No, that's, so you couldn't really articulate, but wow.
Like, I want that.
Wow. So what is that? Because sometimes people are here like, I got saved.
Yes.
What does that entail? What does that mean?
Okay. And in 2025, let me tell you, you will hear 1,000 different definitions. We're going to stick with what the Lord say. Because I don't want nobody to get to heaven and say, that lady just told me whatever made me feel good. She was preaching and saw me all the time. She never told me I wasn't right with the Lord. I don't want that. I'd rather for you to be mad at me now and happy when you get to heaven than to be happy with me now and mad when you go to meet God. But anyway, being saved means that you totally surrender your life, your will over to the Lord. You say, okay, Lord, I've led my life up to here. I'm giving it fully and completely over to you, and I want to live a life that please you. Mm-hmm. That's the part that people miss out on, because people, they cool with having a relationship with God. They cool with going to church. They cool with singing on the choir. They cool with saying a prayer at the family cookout. But when it comes to my day-to-day living, does the way I live from day to day, does it please and honor God? Because people love to say things like me, like, especially back in the day, you're too pretty to be worried about being saved right now. Girl, you could have you a sugar daddy. You too.
Not a sugar daddy.
Okay. Now, they didn't have a sugar daddy. I've been saved for almost 30 years. They didn't have a sugar daddy for 30 years, still ain't married. Okay, so baby, did I really miss something? But people will try to make you think you missed something because you're serving God fully and completely. And I thought, let me tell you what I wrestled with before I got saved, because I was like, God, I can't do this. I was the cussingest, my God, baby, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was the type of person, I'm going to fight you first. If you talk trash about me, I'm not coming to have a conversation with you and say, what you said about me. I'm coming swinging. Then when I finish, I'm going to say, now what you said? Okay, so I'm asking questions at the end. So, so when God saved me, I was like, God.
Hold on a second, Pastor.
Okay.
This is why I wanted you on it. I knew you was a thug. I always knew it. I'm joking.
God.
I knew it.
He ain't lying, really. Look, when I was in cosmetology school, they used to say, that's the Christian thug right there. I used to be driving my Delta 88, my big, long car.
not a Delta 88. Oh, my goodness.
You got me cutting up.
But no, I think that's important because people will see you now and they'll listen to you preach, and you're so phenomenal. I mean, first time I ever heard you was at my my cousin's vow renewal, and you sung the roof off the church, and I was just like, oh my God, she's amazing. But I never knew you was a thug. So, but I just knew that there was something. I knew there was something about you. The energy was in alignment, man. So, no, I appreciate you saying this because there's some folks looking at you and they don't know you. I've always said this: people think they know you and they don't know you.
Right.
And this is including especially family.
Right.
And listening to you talk here now, like people get to really see who Pastor ADERINA LEE really is. So. Man, thank you for sharing that, man.
Wow. And can I say this?
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
You just said something that is really important. It's trying to lead me, but Lord going to bring it right back. Yeah, that's the test. That's how when we've truly been born again, people should be shocked by our testimony. People shouldn't be able to look at you and be like, yeah, I can see that. Because God will so far remove you from your sin, from your past, from your trespasses, from the nature of your flesh. It will no longer have dominion and control over you. So people should be shocked when you say, this is where God has brought me from. They should be surprised.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Let me ask you this. Because we talked a lot about leadership earlier, and you have this strong passion for leadership.
I do.
And you made this statement that I really loved, and because you talked about how you do a lot of training with other aspiring leaders and pastors, and you said something I like. You said people want to preach, but they don't want to be a priest.
Ooh, I did.
And they don't want to serve. Unpack that.
To minister means to serve. And there are a lot of people that are inspired by preaching. They're inspired to preach, but they never truly been called to preach because a preaching is the product of what the priest does. But the priest's first job is to serve and minister to the people. And so a lot of times we're inspired because they think that it's something that it's not. They want the preaching part. They want to show up on Sunday and want everybody to listen to me, gather around, everybody listen to me. But then when it's time to preach that person's funeral, when it's time to be by their side, when they're in the hospital, when their children are acting crazy and they just need somebody to talk to, when sometimes, and I might get a lot of flack for this, but sometimes, their bills might be acting funny and everything else. And sometimes you come along and you assist and you help aid, do whatever you can do. You help to serve and minister to the people of God, not just getting up, preaching your 3 points in your celebration.
Now, you said something that I really loved. I was at a sales conference and I was on a panel and I talked about leadership, and I said I was kind of blessed. I'm blessed to be in a leadership position and people looking at me in a certain light. But what I was trying to say, because there's some folks that was in that room that they aspire to be leaders, and that's cool. But when I got into leadership, it's because someone felt like I was someone worthy of being followed. And that's how I got into it. Someone else decided, like, hey, you should do this because you're someone worthy of being followed. So you made the statement, you said some people are inspired to preach, but they're not called to preach.
Yes.
I need you to unpack that because you're right. People get inspired by leaders. They get inspired by people in pastors and apostles. They get inspired by the spotlight. I'm not sure they get inspired by everything else, but can you unpack that?
Well, I think people see what you do generally on Sunday or whenever you're in a public room, but they don't see the late nights. They don't see cleaning. They don't see the responsibilities. They don't see. I was in a seminar one time, and I think they were talking about how leaders eat last. You know, how we got to make sure everybody else is good first before, you know, we take our portion. You can't. It's so much that goes into being called by God. And I think that's the thing. You know, when I say inspired, it's like you hear somebody else preach, or you might go to a church anniversary and you see how the pastor's treated that day and they bought them some new shoes and a suit. But you don't see the tears they cried the night before. You don't see them when, you know, it's supposed to be 6 people on staff to help clean and 4 called in with excuses, you know, and sometimes they have to take up the slack. You might not ever see that. You might not ever see that leader that you think is not doing anything, you know, but sitting there, what they think is getting paid. And you don't realize that sometimes they're the hardest working person in the room. They have sacrificed more than anybody in that room. And so when it comes to sacrifice, people, you know, they're quick to exit a room. You know, you can, if I say raise your hand for who called a preacher, yeah, but who want to do hospital visits? Who want to go to the jail and do visits? You know, people don't even they want to be leaders and don't even want to help support the aid of the church. I'm not talking about somebody calling them on the phone saying, can I borrow $50? I'm talking about what the scripture has already outlined, that we pay our tithes and our offering. Why is this even a debate and you a leader? You know, and so people want the role, but they don't want the responsibilities.
Oh my God. People want the role.
Honey, where much is given, much is also required.
Ooh, yeah. I like everything. I ain't gonna say I love it because you're speaking. And I hope they really take this and man, they need to take this and run with it because you're right. There's so many things that go on behind the scene. All you see is the results, but you don't see the choices that I had. Because you talked about how leadership, all these things, you have to make choices
every day.
And people don't see the choices. They just see the end results. Because if they had the choices that you have or someone else in your position, you know, they may not have made the same choice.
Absolutely.
Which means they don't get the same results.
Absolutely.
They just see the results, but they don't see all these choices you had to make that were tough.
That'll preach.
I don't know about it'll preach.
It'll preach because people will be jealous of you because of the outcome that you have in your life, but they are unwilling to even mimic 10% of the sacrifice that you give. They want the results. They want the money. They want the paycheck. They want the recognition. They want the house. They want the car. They want the dress. They want the style. They want everything you got. But they want you to work for it, but they want you to give it to them. It's not going to work like that.
Oh my God. Yes. Ooh, yeah. Pastor, listen, yeah. And you talk. You also talked about how you truly believed in mentoring and training. You know, people who want to be in leadership. Some people think that, I guess, I was called to do this, so I don't need to be trained. I'm just gonna. And I even experienced that in my line of business with people who have a hard time following. But I always say this: if you have a hard time following, you're gonna have a time leading.
You can tell.
You are not going to lead if you can't follow.
Right.
And so can you speak to that? You know, because I know you believe in leadership as it pertains to, leadership training as it pertains to pastoring.
Training is pivotal. It is pivotal. It is important. I think a lot of times you can tell people who are untrainable. And so not just the leader that is leading them, but sometimes when they show up in a room, like it's those fine minor details that makes the difference between being good and being excellent. And that's what training does. Training, you might not be oohing and ahhing doing the whole training. It might be one thing that person has said during that 1 hour presentation that can help shift your business, that can help shift your life, that can help shift whatever it is that you're doing. So training there's no replacement for it. There's no, if you want to be excellent. If you want to be average, do your thing. Do what everybody else do. Don't read any books. Don't go to any seminars. Skip all the training class. It's a waste of time.
Right.
Have an excuse. Your tire went flat every time y'all got a meeting. All of that kind of stuff. You want to be average. You want your paycheck to stay average. You want your family to stay average. You want your results to be average. And you keep doing what average people do. But when you want to be excellent, one thing about excellence, it can't be hidden.
Ooh.
I went out to eat at Olive Garden the other day. It's been so long since I had an excellent, you have a good waitress. You have somebody that's okay. They do their job. And so I'm satisfied. No complaints. But I had an excellent waitress. Y'all, I've been back to Olive Garden 3 times just looking for her. I called down, is she working today? Because I want to go when she there. Okay. I left the electronic tip, but when I got up to leave, guess what? I found me some cash. I was like, baby, keep doing what you're doing. You were excellent. Because excellence can't be hidden. She didn't have to do nothing special. She showed up with what she had and how she had prepared herself to show up. So
no, I love that. Excellence can't be hidden. Ooh, and you be cooking on average. And I know you said something earlier when we were talking about how, in which I've heard this before, but the way you spoke to it, it resonated again. Like, we're born average. You wake up out the bed, you're average.
right.
And I know I talked to you about one of my favorite books by author John Mason called "The Enemy Called Average." One of my favorite books. And because people don't understand, average is the enemy.
Yes.
It just is. You know what I'm saying? The goal is to be excellent in everything that you
Absolutely.
do. So even you talking about something is someone may overlook a waitress. I don't know why they would. I'm the same way. Someone give me excellent service.
Woo.
Oh my! I try to get them everything I got in my pocket.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we don't experience that. And when I see someone with excellent energy and just an excellent server. Because we talking about service here. If you're a leader, you're all in the service. I think people who don't tip and don't take care of people who are excellent, they're not real leaders.
Right.
Because you just got served by someone who went above and beyond.
You're hiring.
And if you truly understood service, you would understand what just happened to you, and you would go above and beyond to tip and take care of that person.
Absolutely.
So the way you just talked about that, I just like, that was awesome.
Wow.
Let me say this too, because you talked about like everyone isn't trainable. So how can you tell when someone's not trainable?
That's the hard part, because otherwise they might have all of the qualifications. They might look good. You can see them making $1 billion. Like, they have so much potential. You can't marry potential, people. You cannot marry potential. Potential will have you hugging your pillow at night for 30 days in a row. It'll have you throwing a glass across the room. You'll be somewhere crying, trying to live off of potential. So someone is trainable because they eat what you serve them. They grow by what you and how you nurture them. If you keep feeding the person, you've been training the person for 2 years, they ain't said nothing you said yet. Baby, I'm sorry. You've been training this person. We know it won't take 2 years, but you've been training them for 4 months. They ain't picked up none of your manner. They work for you. It's your company. But they haven't picked up any of your likeness and what you've been pouring out. It's a hole in that vessel.
So let me ask you this. Can someone be a great student but a bad leader? Because you kind of spoke to, like, let's just say, like...
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I think that question has 2 sides to it. Because when we think of the true essence of what a student is, there's somebody that's there to learn. So in all essence, I would say
That's not possible.
that's not possible. But in reality, there are people who are professional students. All they want to do is sit and be trained. Never, baby. That's all they want to do is sit and be trained, but they never apply anything. They got notebooks full of what you taught. They ain't went back and studied, because you take notes to study them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you go to training so you can apply it. But people become professionals at training and they never really become a full student. Because when you are a true student, you're there to learn and you're there to grow. But some people really, they're under the guise that they are, you know, because they're hooked on training, but they skip out on development. And so you can't really be an excellent student without training and development. You know, it's there for a purpose. You know, you're there to be fruitful. You're sowing into a person's life. So you wouldn't keep sowing into a field and nothing ever comes up. You're like, I need new ground. You know, this ground is not good for what I'm trying to produce. They're not receptive.
So let me ask you this: as someone who is into who does leadership training, how do you? Because I know you told me this was tough for you, you know, dealing with folks that end up not really being coachable or trainable. Right. But how do you get to a point where you stop lowering your bucket into empty wells?
That's the hard part. Because it's almost like, even though the person may physically still be there, you have to do a mental separation. You know, you have to. Right. And sometimes the prayer is for a physical separation, but the time might not line up like that right now. So right now, so I can keep peace down in my soul and in my mind and not throw away, you know, you got 8 other people that's there to learn and there to grow and showing up to be fed. And that has to become my focus. You know, I almost have to get them out of my mind. You know, eat if you want to. It's just like me throwing a buffet. I'm here to feed these people who are hungry and ready to eat. Guests are welcome. And so I'm going to look at that person as a guest for now and for the time being.
Yeah, no, I like that, because I know it can be tough, especially like you talk about having other people. It'll
take everything out you now.
Yeah, and I don't think, and this is, when you talk about leadership, because you talked about it so eloquently when we spoke, like, there's just so much to unpack, and people look at they're looking at everything except for what they need to be looking at. And if you're a good leader, your people won't know about all the decisions and choices that you had to make. They don't know that. You're not supposed to know that. You know, so they'll just look at, all they see is the glamorous stuff. Well, what they perceive to be glamorous. But I think real leaders, when they're in a spotlight, they're up there doing their calling. They're not even looking at being in a spotlight.
Absolutely.
They're just doing what they do.
Doing what they call to do.
When you get up here, it's spotlight time.
Right.
You know, I once told somebody, I said, it's the difference between leadership and attentionship. Right. I'm in leadership, you in attentionship. That's not the same.
Right.
And if you really want to have impact, you're going to have to be in leadership, not attentionship.
Hey, man.
I'm just saying.
Attentionship.
I just made that up, man. I don't know.
Steal that
You going to steal that one? But I just think the way you spoke about leadership, I just really loved it, man, because I deal with some of this stuff, and I just want people to understand, like, it's a lot. Yeah. But you can do it, but you're going to have to come at this from the right perspective.
Yeah.
And if I'm asking you to read books, and if I'm asking you to do these things, like I said earlier, I said, you know, you can either affect people or you can infect people. And when you're in a position of leadership, if you're infecting people,
right,
you know, that's bad. That could be toxic. You in a position of power. There's so much responsibility that comes with being in a position of power, right? And I just like listening to you talk, because I can tell you understand the gravity of what you've been called to do.
Oh yeah, Oh yeah, excellence rises a room. I had I had tried to venture off into a new career path at one point, and I I really it was okay, but it really wasn't me at the same time.
Mm.
But I just began to serve around that office. I had a lot of spare time. I said, well, while I'm here, the serving is my jam. I know how to. If I can't do nothing else, I can serve. So I just started making myself useful. Never trying to charge people to do stuff. I'm here. I'm going to be useful. What can I do for you? Well, I wound up hanging out with this one guy for like 2 or 3 weeks. I'm just doing my thing, helping him all I can because he was super busy. I was making no sales. I wasn't doing anything. So like 3 weeks into it, we have to make a run. We go to the bank. He bring a check out for me for like $2,500 for the work I had done for free. And so I was always taught and raised that if we do what's right without worrying about the cost and the pay and all of that stuff, then we'll soon be paid for what we used to do for free. And that's just showed itself up for me time and time again. But people want results first. They want pay first. They want compensation first. And they haven't proven anything. Like give of yourself. Brian Tracy say, pay it all up front. When you pay it all up front, and then, you'll see the residual from that. So, and I've found that to be true.
Yes, I know you. We won't talk about that profession that you used to be in, but I know that you talked about how there's a lot of opportunity there financially, but you talked about how you didn't. You still had to have some purpose,
absolutely,
and you just didn't feel like
right.
It just wasn't. The energy just wasn't right. It just wasn't what you were supposed to be doing. And there's a book that I read a long time ago by Rick Warren called A Purpose-Driven Life. And anything that I'm doing, I had to be led to do it.
Yeah.
No matter how big or small it is, whether it's something spiritual or just something secular, I had to be, if it's not right with my soul, I just can't do it.
Right.
Because I can't be bought. So if I'm doing it because I feel good about this.
Absolutely.
I feel good about the organization or whatever it is that I'm doing. And if I feel good about it, you're going to get the best of me.
Absolutely.
If I don't feel good about it,
right.
First of all, if I don't feel good about it, I'm probably not going to be doing it, or I'm
Right.
going to stop doing it at some point. But like, I just like how because you was in something very profitable, but you was like,
yeah, it wasn't.
this just isn't for me.
Yeah, my soul ain't for sale.
Ooh, my soul ain't for sale.
I can stand to lose a few
my
pounds.
goodness.
Let me cut back and eat some oodles and noodles. I'll be all right.
My soul ain't for sale.
soul
Ooh,
ain't for
I love
sale.
that. And when we talked earlier, I listened. I try to be a student of listening. And you just talk. I know you touched on it a little bit, but you really, I don't want to use the word hate, but dislike average.
I do.
You really, I can just hear it.
I
And
do.
what is it about average that really just irks you?
Because you don't have to do anything to be average. You don't have to do nothing to be average. You just wake up, get up, just whatever life bring to you, you take whatever life throws at you instead of making the decision of how do I want my life to go? How do I want this to work out for me? But we're mad about the results, but we haven't put in any effort or we haven't done anything to cultivate or shape the life that we want. So average gets on my nerves because people want to be average, but they want an excellent outcome. That's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Ooh, see, I think that's why leadership is so important, because some people are just seeds that need to be around better soil.
Absolutely.
And sometimes in this life, we have to, because we talked about that too. I mean, our energy and who we're around. Sometimes we're good seeds in bad soil, and we have to change our soil.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, do not apologize for changing your soil.
At all.
Because sometimes, the soil that you're in is keeping you from growing. And some of us have a sense of entitlement because of the soil that's around us. It's not even us. We're around bad soil that's telling us that we can continue to be average, but get excellent results.
Right.
And then get mad when we don't get that.
I was going to say
we
they
get upset.
will demand it.
We get upset, feel entitled
Right.
to these results that we didn't work for.
Right.
And so I just when you talked about, your disdain for being average, I don't know, I just loved it.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Wow.
That just really moved me.
Wow.
So Pastor, listen, what do you want to leave us with? Leave us with something strong.
Well, this is the thing I think everybody needs to know and recognize is that wherever you are in life, whatever you're faced with, whatever you're dealing with, that your life can totally change. And that vision and that dream you got way deep down in your soul, you keep seeing something better far off in the distance, but it seems like nothing in your life is going that way. God put that there because that is a part of your assignment in your future. It's not some fantasy. It's not a fairy tale. It's a part of your destiny. And so I heard Brian Tracy, which I love, I heard him say, or was it Jim Rohn? I love both of them. I listen to them all the time. Jim Rohn, he said, if you will change, everything will change. So somebody needs to decide today that my life has to change. I refuse for it to continue to be the way that it's always been.
Oh, my God. Yes, ma'am. Pastor Lee, where can people find you on social media? Listen, man, hold on. Let me say this. I'm going to pick on you a little bit. Because you was like, Don, don't text me because I can't text. I'm like, you don't text.
Say it for the people. Say it for the people.
You ain't texting.
Say it for the people.
You a young lady still. I mean, you ain't texting.
It's a quick way for me to block somebody.
You off the chain.
Because I tell everybody I don't text. And so they'll call me later. I've been texting you for baby, don't call me back. Do not call me. If I tell you how to communicate with me,
right,
and you decide you're going to do the opposite,
that's on you.
You already finna frustrate me. We ain't finna do this. We ain't finna do this.
Hey, listen, you told me early on in the process, you said, Don, I don't text.
Thank you.
So I just emailed you.
He's a great listener.
Listen, man, that's one of the first steps to being a leader. You got to listen. If you ain't listening,
absolutely, you in trouble. So they can find me on Facebook for right now, Pastor ADERINA LEE, Apostle ADERINA LEE, which I'm not as active on, but coming in the new year, I will be showing up a lot more on social media. And you can find me on TikTok under Apostle ADERINA LEE.
Apostle ADERINA LEE, yes, ma'am. I know you talked about in 2026, you're going to be doing more like online.
I am.
Pastoring.
Yeah, God has called me to the online space. So I'm going to be showing up a little bit more out in social media land. So
look at you, man.
Yeah.
So the social media thing is, you're a little uncomfortable with that.
I'm not uncomfortable with it. I am a deep introvert, but sometimes people think introvert means shy. I'm not shy. I'm not timid. I'm not none of that. But people will often confuse me because I don't talk a lot, surprisingly. So people will often confuse me with being timid, shy, things like that. I'm none of that. But an introvert is just somebody who finds their strength and energy in solace, in being alone and having a lot of quiet time. So I'm a people person kind of by profession, but I'm not a social person, if that makes sense. But I'm here for it. Whatever God called me to do in this season, that's where I'm going to be.
I love that. No, I love that. Pastor, listen, thank you so much for coming in and blessing us.
It's been wonderful.
Listen, this is going to conclude the episode of Free Game Don D, Life, Family, and Business.
It's been great.